Okay, good morning. There's an echo in here.
Yes.
Because if not, I'm gonna sing my rendition of My Way before we start the hearing. Okay, sorry about that. Just a little funny, folks. Okay, here we go. So it's Friday, February 4th. Committee on Transportation has a 10 o'clock agenda. We're conference room 423 in the Hawaii State Capitol.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so before we start, just want to read a few things for everyone here. So thank you everyone for joining us. Okay, in order to allow as many people to testify as possible, there will be a 2-minute time limit per testifier. You'll be hearing a buzzer, hopefully, and then I will ask you to conclude your comments. Okay, because morning hearings must adjourn prior to the noon floor session, not all testifiers may have the opportunity to testify. In that event, please know that your written testimony will be considered by the committee. Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. We're not responsible for any bad internet connection. Okay. In the event of a network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision-making only. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please avoid using any trademarked or copyrighted images. Okay, and please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Okay, such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing by the vice chair. Okay,
I got you.
okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's start. Okay, House Bill 218 relating to the Frank T. Okimoto Reef Runway. Okay, members, we have testimony from Macy Okimoto. Okay, support Kyle Okimoto. Okay, Macy and Kyle are loved ones of Frank Okimoto. Okay, R. Scott Simon and Lionel Tukioka. Okay, all in support. Any others wishing to testify? House Bill 2218. Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the next measure. House Bill 1953 relating to concessions. Provides DOT with more flexibility and discretion to address substantial hardship situations that impact airport concession contracts. Okay, let's see. First, we have DOT.
Good morning, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Ilagan, and members of the Transportation Committee. Jade Butay for DOT. We stand on our comments as submitted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director. Okay, up next, we have Wendell Brooks, Jr., Airport Concessionaires Committee. Okay, support. Okay, Airlines Committee of Hawaii. Young O.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Myung-oh with Watanabe testifying on behalf of the Airlines Committee of Hawaii in opposition. Stand on a written testimony, simply want to see that the Department of Transportation already has the discretion to provide the relief as they have done during the pandemic, and we feel that this bill is unnecessary. Happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Ask the committee to hold this measure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next, we have James Stone, Airport Concessionaires Committee.
Chair Aquino and honorable committee members, thank you for making the time. We were here last year with the bill, and we're here again, and we're hopeful the legislature will give us the benefit of the doubt. This bill poses no risk. It just gives the DOT the flexibility like other airports, and the DOT does not have to grant any relief in times of hardship. And the airlines need not fear because the DOT can always say no to any request for relief. We're here to seek fairness. Unfairness has occurred as indicated in the testimony we submitted. And this should not occur, and this needs to be corrected. And we seek you. This simply provides flexibility. There's nothing mandated, and there's nothing to fear in this bill. It just seeks to summarize what can happen in times of significant hardship and what discretion and flexibility the airport should have, like other airports. So the type of unfairness that occurred can be corrected. I'd be happy to answer questions, and I haven't seen the airport's comments, so I'm not sure what their comments are. I'll be happy to address any of those comments if people want to ask me what they are. Again, this bill is no threat. Please give us the benefit of the doubt. Last year, the legislature gave the airport the benefit of the doubt, and problems occurred as we had predicted. So please grant our requests. We've proposed 2 amendments. They're attached to our testimony. On page 7 amendment, we are going to propose some clarifying language that basically says the significant hardship to be granted by this bill only applies to contracts that are now in effect at the time of April 1st, 2020, when COVID started. It applies only to those agreements and future agreements. Thank you.
Excuse me, Jim. Thank you. Your 2 minutes is up. Can you conclude, please?
Well, I'd be happy to answer questions. I think it's good to know what the members' concerns are, and then I can address them. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, we do have late testimony from a Deb Kuwaye from DOT. The comments as well as the airports division.
Chair, those are all the same testimony, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Director. Okay, all with comments. Any others wishing to testify? House Bill 1953. Yes, seeing none, members, any questions? Yes, Rep. Nakamura.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Stone. The SDOT's testimony pretty much says that they currently have discretion, and that the way I read it, that this bill may not be needed. But I wanted to ask you about the issue of fairness. Can you describe the disparity in the who got helped or who was given relief and who wasn't, and was there how variable was it?
Okay, there's a lot of vibration on my end, so I apologize if I don't fully understand your question, and please correct me. In terms of the unfairness, we have some concessions that got a 2-year extension, some got less than 2 years, and some got nothing. And now all of the concessions suffered a loss of gross receipts during the COVID that is now ongoing for 2 years. They all suffered a loss of gross receipts, and it's been a roller coaster. COVID, Delta, Omicron, and who knows what's going to be next in future years. So apparently, the DOT got an interpretation, as we understand it, from the Attorney General's office that said that given current laws and given current contract provisions, the DOT's hands were tied. This is the only thing that they can do. Now, what this bill does is it unties the hands. So the DOT has the discretion like other airports. And in that case, the DOT now can be fair like other airports across the US. And the restrictive laws and interpretation by the AG of contract provisions in times of significant hardship, can be temporarily set aside. Now, there's some verbal agreements referred to in the in our testimony, and that is in anticipation of further problems in the that could occur. There's many definitions of verbal agreements, and I know some people have asked me something about it, and if the chair and the committee wants to delete the verbal agreement language, that would be fine with us because it hasn't been clearly defined. Representative Nakamura, I hope I answered your question. And if not, and I invite all of the members to please ask. I haven't seen the comments, so please ask me so I can clarify whatever concerns you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any other questions? I have a quick question for you, Jim. You had mentioned verbal agreements. How are verbal agreements recorded?
Well, basically, that is a very good question. And I admit that there are ambiguities, perhaps using that term. And as I stated, because it hasn't been clearly defined, perhaps, you may want to delete that language of the term verbal agreements. But basically, verbal agreements come about when in times of rush or crises, or when there are gaps, when contracts cannot be put out in time, or when there's an emergency and things cannot be written up and signed in time, then you may have a situation where somebody is doing something, but the paperwork, hasn't been completed. And perhaps verbal agreements is not the proper term. It's a little bit ambiguous, but that's the type of situation that can arise. And that's why that language was suggested.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Members, any other questions? House Bill 1953. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next measure, House Bill 2246.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Related to the State Highway Enforcement Program surcharge. Okay. Up first, we have Chair Alice Lee. Okay. In support, Gerard Silva. Okay. In opposition, members, I believe that's the only written testimony we have. Any others wishing to testify on 2246? Seeing none, members, any questions?
Oh, 2646, we have already.
Oh, you do? I apologize. We do have testimony from the DOT.
Yeah, Chair, I'm sorry that our testimony was submitted late, but we stand on our testimony in support.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any others wishing to testify? House Bill 2246. Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Yes, seeing none, let's move on to the next measure. Yeah, House Bill 2336. Relating to the photo red light imaging detector systems program, pilot program. Okay. Up first, we have HPD. Major Slater.
Good morning, good morning, Chair Aquino and committee members. Acting Captain Andre Peters of the Honolulu Police Department's Traffic Division, and we stand on our written testimony. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain. Okay, up next, we have Trisha Nakamatsu, City and County of Honolulu, Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Okay, thank you. In support, okay, we have Gerard Silva. Okay, in opposition, members, we do have late testimony from the Department of Transportation.
Aloha, Chair. I apologize again for our late testimony, but we stand on our testimony in support.
Okay, thank you very much, Director. Okay, let's see. We also have late testimony from Chad Taniguchi. Okay, as an individual, also in support. Okay, any others wishing to testify? House Bill 2336. Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the next measure, House Bill 1619. This is relating to peer-to-peer car sharing. This is insurance requirements only. Okay. Up first, we have DCCA Insurance Division, Commissioner Hayashida.
Good morning, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Elegant, members of the committee. My name is Colin Hayashida. I am the Insurance Commissioner for the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. We stand on our written testimony offering comments and would also like to say that we currently are working with industry on this bill, and we hope to have an agreement soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, up next, we have Hawaii Insurance Council.
Good morning, Chair Aquino and Vice Chair Iligan. Allison Uyoka for Hawaii Insurance Council. Mr. Chair, this is an insurance-only bill for peer-to-peers that HIC asked to be introduced because no bill on regulation or insurance has been passed to date. We feel that insurance is the most important consumer protection measure in this new space of peer-to-peers. The basis for this bill is House Bill 333 SD2, which died in conference last year. And then we modified it to tighten the provisions and to make it conform to Hawaii law. In addition to our testimony to make the bill effective July 1, 2022, we have had discussion with the Hawaii Association for Justice regarding their concerns that were brought out at the Senate Transportation Committee yesterday late afternoon. We agreed to two of their amendments, specifically to delete any business use from Section 3A and to amend the definition of car sharing termination time by replacing the word earliest to latest to avoid insurance coverage gaps. Finally, because the basis of this bill, House Bill 1619, and the next bill, House Bill 1971, have been taken from different versions of House Bill 333 from 2021, we ask for your consideration in using the language in this bill as the basis for insurance coverage. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next we have Turo, Tammy Bui.
Good morning, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Elegant, members of the committee, Tammy Boo on behalf of Turo. We stand on our written testimony, Chair. Just want to share that we would like to work collaboratively with the Hawaii Insurance Council and others and look at this bill together. Just want to underscore that spirit of collaboration as we review the language.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next we have Geico, Tim Dayton. Excuse me. Okay, in support. Okay, Annie Makapagal of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association.
Aloha, Chair. Annie Macapagal on behalf of American Property Casualty Insurance Association. Happy to testify and stand on my testimony in support of the measure. And we understand that there's ongoing negotiation to further shore up the language of the bill, but we urge the committee to support the measure and pass it out in some form for the safety of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, we do have late testimony. Okay, from the Department of Transportation, Director.
Chair, we stand on our testimony in support.
Okay, thank you, Director. Hawaii Association for Justice, Evan Boy.
Good morning, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Evan Owe, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Hawaii Association for Justice, or HAJ. We appreciate the intent of this measure to create insurance requirements for peer-to-peer car sharing in Hawaii. However, we oppose the current language of the bill and have three main concerns. First, there's an insufficient required amount of minimum insurance coverage for peer-to-peer car sharing companies. The current language only provides for a minimum of $20,000 for liability and $10,000 for property damage. We recommend increasing the minimum to $1 million to be consistent with insurance requirements for similar to transportation network companies. Second, the language in Section 3B is overly broad in its use of language for any business purpose on page 8, line 14. This may lead to unintended gaps in coverage and include business uses that should not be exempt. To address this concern, we recommend deleting the language. Lastly, there's a gap in insurance coverage when there's any delay in returning the shared car. The definition of car sharing termination time has a loophole as it states the insurance terminates at the expiration of the agreed upon period of time, while the owner's personal insurance excludes ride sharing. For example, a gap in coverage occurs if a car is due back at 4:30, but there's an accident on each one that delays the return of the car until 6. The car would be uninsured between 4:30 and 6. To address this concern, we recommend deleting the word earliest on page 2, line 20, and replacing it with latest. We look forward to working with insurance stakeholders and peer-to-peer industry on this issue. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify, and I'll be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Excuse me. Okay, up next we have Allstate, Avail. Okay, in opposition. Any others wishing to testify on House Bill 1619? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the next measure, House Bill 1971. Okay, relating to peer-to-peer car sharing. Okay, up first, we have Department of Taxation, Director Choi.
Yes, Chair. This is Jonathan White on behalf of the Director of Tax. We provided testimony providing comments. I'm just pointing out the difference between the rate that was passed for car sharing organizations and the the proposal to have the peer-to-peer car sharing organizations subject to that same rate. And then actually supporting a different part of the bill, which is to amend that car sharing organization rate to be 1/12 of the overall rate, because the fixed car sharing rate was passed before the recent changes to the ordinary car rental rate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next we have DCCA, Office of Consumer Protection, Steve Levin.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Michael Moriyama for Stephen Levins of the Office of Consumer Protection. Mr. Levins apologizes. He can't make today's hearing. He has a scheduling conflict. We stand on our written testimony. We do agree with the Hawaii Insurance Council that the insurance provisions of peer-to-peer proposed bills will significantly impact consumer protection issues. And I'll be available to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next we have Alison Ueoka, Insurance Council.
Thank you, Chair. Allison Uyoka again for Hawaii Insurance Council. Mr. Chair, this is the regulation bill for peer-to-peers, and it also contains insurance provisions. We are only here today to talk about the insurance parts of this bill, and we strongly support passage of insurance provisions for this activity. However, this language and that language of House Bill 1619 previously heard are different. We prefer the language in House Bill 1619. However, if the language in this bill does pass, we offer the following amendments with regard to the definition of car sharing start time and car sharing termination time. Both need to be expanded so that there are no gaps in insurance coverage. So for instance, if a flight comes in early and a renter appears at the peer-to-peer rental car, the start time should start when they take control of the car. So the contract time might be a later time. Conversely, for the termination time, as the Hawaii Association for Justice talked about, if for some reason the car cannot be returned by the contract time because they're stuck in traffic or some other reason, you want the insurance coverage to be extended until such time that the car is returned so that there are no coverage gaps. So what we're trying to do here is make sure that the parentheses on the left and the right side are appropriate for the activity. And this would protect the consumer who is driving the vehicle and any victims involved in motor vehicle crashes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next, we have Tammy Bowie of Turo.
Good morning again, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Elegant, members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony. Just want to underscore an appreciation for the regulatory language that is included in this bill.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next, we have Enterprise Holdings, Matt Sujimura.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Matt Sujimura on behalf of Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We'll stand on our written comments in support of HB 1971 and just want to point out that we are requesting, if you guys do move this bill, I'm just requesting language in the committee report identifying in current Hawaii revised statutes. I believe it's chapter HRS 261, just pointing out that any peer-to-peer companies that do want to operate at any Hawaii state airport do have to enter into contracts or at least have an agreement with the DOT airports in order to operate on premises. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Tom Yamachika, Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Okay, wait, comments? Okay, members, we do have late testimony from Get Around. Okay, with comments. Okay, John Van Arsdale. Okay, support Hawaii Association for Justice.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. Evan O again on behalf of HAJ. Similar to our comments on HB 1619, we do support the measure and have just some comments on it. The issues regarding insufficient amount of coverage and the gap in insurance coverage for the delay and return of the vehicle are our two main primary concerns. We did want to also note that the insurance gap is also expressly stated in section -2B2, which indicates that the assumption of liability does not apply when a shared car owner is acting in concert with a shared car driver who fails to return the shared car pursuant to the terms of the car sharing program agreement. For instance, if a driver is delayed in traffic and notifies the owner that he or she will be late, the assumption of liability would not apply, while the personal auto insurance is not applicable due to exclusion for car sharing. We support HIC's amendments and in addition recommend deleting section -2B2 for further address of the insurance gap. Lastly, we wanted to note that another point that we raised in our testimony regarding record keeping requirements. The draft omits several key requirements that will be crucial when determining the assumption of liability and insurance coverage that is proposed in this measure. We recommend a more robust and enumerated set of record keeping requirements similar to HB 1619, and have provided language to amend section -5. Again, we look forward to working with all stakeholders on this issue. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any others wishing to testify on this measure, House Bill 1971? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to recess for decision making. Okay, good morning again, reconvening our 10 o'clock agenda for decision making. Okay, up first we have House Bill 2218 relating to the reef runway to be named after Frank T. Okimoto. Members, the recommendation is to move this as is. Okay, any questions or concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair, unamended.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation of the Chair is to pass HB 2218 unamended. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Clark?
Aye.
Representative Hashimoto?
Aye.
Representative Kitagawa?
Aye.
Representative Lopresti is excused. Representative Nakamura?
Aye.
Representative Takumi is excused. Representative Matsumoto?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. We have 7 ayes and 2 excused. Recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Moving on to the next measure, House Bill 1953 relating to concessions. Okay, this would provide DOT more flexibility and discretion to address substantial hardship situations that impact our airport concession contracts. Okay, members, the recommendation is to move this as a House Draft 1. Okay, with the following amendments. Okay, we'll be removing the term verbal agreement throughout the measure. Yeah, second thing, on page 5, line 10, we're also going to be removing anticipated. Okay. On page 7, line 2, we'll be replacing 25 years with 15 years on modified contracts. Okay, members, we'll also add a provision that as a requirement for relief-seeking concessions that have laid off employees due to pandemic-related conditions, recall employees as a condition to receiving recoupment opportunities. Okay. Members will also be inserting an effective date of July 1st, 2050. Okay. Members, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation of the Chair is to pass HB 1953 with amendments. Are there any, actually noting the absence of Representative Lopresti and Representative Takumi for this measure and future measures. Are there any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? With all other members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Okay, moving on to House Bill 2246, related to the State Highway Enforcement Program surcharge. Members, the recommendation is to move this as a House Draft 1. Okay, we're just defecting the date, the effective date to July 1st, 2050 for further discussion. Okay. Members, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation of the Chair is to pass HB 2246 with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? With all members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Moving on to House Bill 2336, relating to the photo red light imaging detector systems program, pilot program. Members, the recommendation is to move this as a House Draft 1 with some technical amendments. We're going to defect the effective date to July 1st, 2050. And we're also going to add in the committee report, should this bill reach finance, the extension of the lapsing dates that are in the bill to June 30th, 2025 for all the FYs that are included in the bill, if that would be appropriate. Okay. So that all the FYs listed in the bill, the lapsing dates, if that would be appropriate. Okay. Members, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 2336 with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? With the rest of the members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Moving on to the next bill, House Bill 1619 relating to peer-to-peer car sharing insurance requirements. Okay, this is the insurance only bill. Members, the recommendation is to move this as a House Draft 1 with a defective date of July 1st, 2050. In addition to that, based on testimony, we're going to be making a few changes. Okay, we're going to be removing any business use on page 8, as well as making a change on page 2 with regards to earliest and replacing it to the latest termination time. Okay. Along with other technical amendments. Okay, any questions or concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 1619 with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? With the rest of the members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. And on to the last. This is House Bill 1971. This is the peer-to-peer regulation bill. Members, we're going to be making a few changes here. We're going to be adding some technical amendments and making this effective July 1st, 2050. And we're also going to be removing the section pertaining to 251-2.5 and subjecting peer-to-peers to current and future rental car surcharges. Okay. Also, we're going to be clarifying that peer-to-peers are subject to GET, and these taxes, which includes the GET and the rental car surcharge, will be incumbent on the platforms to collect and remit to DOTAX. Okay, regarding safety recalls, members, we're also going to clarify, in addition to recall checks upon registering with a peer-to-peer program and when a vehicle is available for rental, it will also include a rental check at the moment when a vehicle is about to get rented out, okay, to address any consumer protection issues. Okay. Also, we'll be replacing the insurance provisions in this bill in favor of contents in House Bill 1619 to make it consistent. Okay. This includes any changes that I had mentioned earlier previously. Okay. Also in the committee report, we're going to add that airports under their administrative authority will oversee and permit activities in regards to peer-to-peers at all airport facilities as mentioned in testimony. Okay. So members, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 1971 with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? With the rest of the members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. This is it for the triple referral bills. Should there be a triple referral that would come, it'll probably be last minute. Okay, but for the most part, this is pretty much it. Okay, but thank you for your patience and indulgence. Thank you, everybody on Zoom world. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.